I want to tell you at this point that I was not a Christian and I did not want anything to do with Christians. We had developed the first identification device, and it was completed in the early 70s. They came back to us and they said, we want something better than that. And so we said, if you have enough money, we can develop anything. I was not alone there. There were 100 people involved in the project. Some were from General Electric, some from Motorola, some were from the Bell Laboratory, some were from the Boston Medical Center, and some were from Stanford University. My responsibility was project leader or the senior project engineer. We began to work on the design of a microchip that, when it was completed, was 0.75 millimeters in diameter, 7 millimeters long. It was the size of 1/4 of a grain of rice. Again, I want to say that I was not a Christian and there were no Christians there. They said they wanted this to have a power source and be able to emit a signal. And they told us they wanted us to use lithium as a battery source. Lithium's used in watch batteries, it's used in heart pacemaker batteries, it's used in a lot of places. I designed into this microchip a little charging circuit that would charge that battery. This sounds like a lot of technical things coming together, but if you'll bear with me 1 minute, you'll see what God has laid out about this microchip.
The plan ultimately is to move from health passport apps to more convenient RFID microchip implants that allows for constant 24/7 monitoring of health, movements, contacts, and digital payments. With RFID CHIPs, all human privacy will completely cease. Initially, these CHIPs will be voluntary. Once they become normalized, they will become mandatory with a penalty of death for anyone who won't comply. They're shifting everything from cash to cashless. And they're doing it because cash allows people to shop in privacy. And with cash, the state does not know what or where or when you buy something. A cashless economy means a total loss of all financial privacy, as all purchase can be constantly monitored and controlled. Hence, you have the CBDC. Access to digital finance can be withdrawn from anyone who dissents from officially approved purchases, views, or behavior. Social credit system. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Revelation chapter 13, verse 16 to 18. Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rachah Kodash. Double honors to our venerable apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, and peace and blessings to the Lord's elect, the house of David. All right, so Brother Aharon coming back at you with another lesson, and lo, will it be edifying and uplifting unto the elect. All right, and I'm going to title this Dr. Carl Sanders, The Secret Plan Revealed. Okay, Dr. Carl Sanders, The Secret Plan Revealed. All right, and I was just meditating on the CHIP. All right, how close we are, because as I'm reading through a lot of these articles, the headlines pretty much are all screaming that the MOTB is in preparation to be revealed to the public. Okay, we're seeing a transition, and it's happening very quickly over the past weeks and months. All right, with a whole lot of legislations that are being done, not just here in America, Babylon the Great, but all across the world. Okay. We're going towards digital payments as fast as can be, because they're saying that by October of this year, the nations, the countries that are part of the EU will have to be on a completely 100% cashless system. Okay, the CBDC so-called will be in play because they would have done everything that they have to do on the legislative side of things, right? Going to the law and so on and so forth, right? So the legalities is what they're figuring out now. This is the stage we're in, right? How are the people reacting to the moves that we're doing? And in their minds, nobody's going to stop them. Okay? Nobody's going to stop them. And that's biblical prophecy. You can't stop it. They can't stop it. All right? They must fulfill this prophecy. And every step that they take, all right, with the increase of technological advancements, okay, they get closer and closer to bringing this prophecy into fulfillment. Okay, and as we read in the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter, right, he causeth all. Okay, so we're seeing it on a daily basis. If you're paying attention, every single day, there's new technology coming out. There's new laws and legislations coming out. There's new conditioning that's coming out to bring people closer to the fulfillment of the MOTB prophecy. Okay, so we don't have much time left. All right, but the title, going back to it, Dr. Carl Sanders, The Secret Plan Revealed. What secret plan are we talking about? The secret plan that we just pretty much read in the book of Revelation 13, 16, and 17. Revelation chapter 13, verse 16, 17, and 18. Okay, about the MOTB. All right, now Dr. Carl Sanders was a man who was part of those who designed, part of the men who designed the actual CHIP. All right, back in the 60s, I believe he said back in 1966. All right, which is very interesting. That he was working at a company, and the government, all right, approached him with a project, and the project was for them to create a device, an implantable device, all right, that they could use for identification, right? And they said that it became official in the 1970s, right? I believe he says 76, if I'm not mistaken. All right, so that's pretty much right when the truth came out, 1969, 70s, and so on and so forth, right? So they knew, Esau knew that was a time, right? All the way till now, they've been building and working on it. So we're at the time where the last end of that prophecy is about to be fulfilled. That's when you actually see it being implemented upon the face of the earth, all right, and being done in a mandatory fashion, right? So it becomes normalized and mandatory, right, with a penalty of death for those who don't comply. Okay, so Dr. Carl Sanders actually worked on the CHIP, right? He created it, the whole concept of it, everything that it does now. And when he was done doing it, he said that the feds actually gave him, I think he said the FBI and the CIA came to him and they actually gave him a Bible and said not to read, all right, or not to read the book of Revelation, he said in general, right? And he asked why. He said, because that book is hard to understand. So don't even bother going into it, you know? So, you know, through the Spirit, he was just reading and then he said, just let me go into that book. Started reading it and he said he came into the 13th chapter, right, which we just read. And as he was reading it and going into the words, he was like, oh shit, damn. And he's like, he cried to the Lord, he prayed to the Lord, you know, that please, Lord, like, what have I done? Like, I literally just helped fulfill the prophecy. Look, this is what John was writing. This is what he said. This is what he saw. And I'm part of those who just created it. Like, damn, Lord, like, why me? You know? So then he said after that, he became a Christian. Because prior to that, he didn't want to be a part of all that Christianity stuff. He said he didn't get along with him, you know? But hey, the Lord used him to do certain things, right? To bring in the most important prophecy left before the destruction of this place. All right. That's why it's important for us to constantly warn. Okay. As it's written, let's get that real quick because it's not going to be a good time. It's going to be a time like never before for real. And people who don't see it like that is because the Lord has blocked you from seeing it like that. You see what I'm saying? But when the time comes, you're going to be the ones who's going to suffer the most because you're not prepared at all. Okay. So even with all this going on, right here is the book of Ezekiel chapter 3 and verse 17. It says, Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore hear the word of my mouth and give them warning from me. So even with all the warning going out, I'm talking about urgent warning going out, right? You still gonna have people who not gonna listen. And we've seen it. The elder Manat Zagbab be doing videos on it, right? Yeah, he got a different spirit, man, to be dealing with those kind of things, man. Shit. You know? But hey, brakta to you, brother. Shalom. If you're listening. But basically, you know, you're seeing a lot of these scoffers, all right, popping up out of the woodwork and talking a whole lot of mess. You know, and it is as infuriating as it is also satisfying because we're actually seeing biblical prophecies playing out. And we go into it and we read it. You know? We read it and it's like word for word. It's like, damn, Lord, like, whew. You know? Let me see if I can get this real quick. There's a book of 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 3. And I'm going to jump into the article after this. I have a small little thing I want to read. It says, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers walking after their own lusts. Right? And when you watch the videos, man, it's insane. Right? Let's read it in the NLT. It says, most importantly, I want to remind you that in the last days, right? So we're in the last days, scoffers will come. And this is now, it's like, it's never been like this before. You know, back, I mean, like even just a few years ago, prior to CV, we were out there. Nobody was really like paying attention like that. You know? And now it's like, yo, all they talk about, oh, the Hebrews, like Hebrew, it's like, dude, hey, you know? It says, so in the last days, scoffers will come, mocking the truth and following their own desires. Isn't that what we're seeing now? Right? It says, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation. That's why they go into all these different religions and philosophies, because they're not looking forward to the promise. To them, it's like, it's dead and gone. Like, oh yeah, always talking about this, you know? It's not about that. It's not about, you know, a God's chosen people with it's like, yo, what's up with you people, man? These prophecies are coming to pass all because of the children of Israel. So what are you talking about? We are the most important people on the earth. Somebody talking about, oh, yo, we're not Hebrews, we are Namibians or whatever, fuck, some shit, some weirdo shit. I'm like, man, these people are gone. But it's a beautiful thing, right? It's a beautiful thing. So the point was to bring out that you got scoffers now, like never before, right? But let's check this out. All right, this is it's actually an article, all right, which was from a newspaper, right? That was back then when news was actually bringing out actual information. They had honest people working there, even though they didn't know what the whole end goal was going to be. They had honest people working in these news stations, okay, to a degree, right? So this was published back on August 1st, 1989, okay, by Joe Frick. All right, it's titled Big Brother's Coming, Revealed Secret Plan to Tag Every Man, Woman, and Child. All right, it says, coded micro C-hips implanted in every person in the country would tie all of us into a master computer that could track anyone down at any moment, and plans for such a system are already underway whether you like it or not. The secret scheme is being touted as a service for the protection of the people by high government officials, but some insiders who object to the move say it's just another way for Big Brother to control its subjects. Transmitters. Top-level national security agents are trying to convince sources in the Bush administration to begin the project in which every man, woman, and child will be implanted with a tiny microtransmitter. Right? Claims Davis Millerand, a critic of government intervention who says he has received leaked information from inside sources. Quote, they're trying to say this will be a good way for authorities to quickly track down missing persons and children as well as criminals and spies. You see that? So it's the same thing. I just finished watching the other brother Atazwa, I'm staying in Spirit 144. He did a lesson going into Trump. There's like I believe it was a the mic, right? A hot mic, so to speak, which it could be, real or fake, who knows? But he was caught saying that the domestic, right, the homegrowns are next, right, in reference to the arresting of the so-called illegal immigrants, gang members, and so on and so forth, and sending them out to Guantanamo and El Salvador and shit. So he's saying that the homegrown is next. The homegrowns are next. So they've been using the phrase domestic tears and stuff, homegrown radicals and shit like that. That was all building up. Okay, that's all building up. So it's basically going to be an encompassing of everyone who opposes this new system that's coming. All right. So we always bring up Rex 84, and this is exactly Rex 84 playing out. All right. Rex 84 is playing out right now as we speak. They started off the whole campaign with illegals need to be taken out so people could be in support of it. And then once they put boots on the ground, it's over with. The troops are going to start closing in. They're going to probably start them at the border, right? Because that's where most of the action is going to be at. And remember, everyone, when they say border, all right, the technical FEMA term for border is not like the actual border down south alone. No, it's everyone or any place that's 100 miles away from either an airport or a coastal area. Okay, so if you're in 100 miles radius of airport or a coastal area, all right, you are at a border. Okay, so when they say border patrol, they're going to be at all borders. It's not just the south. So remember, 100 miles radius from any of those ports, what they call ports, that's a border to them. All right, they could literally come in and make war against you right then and there. All right, so continuing. All right, it says injections, right? There's a key. But with the astounding technology of today, everything about you could be contained in one tiny microchip, which would be connected to a government computer. So the government computer part is what they're working on now. Okay, you're seeing Doge and everything's being shifted into digital is the government computer part being built. Okay, and it's all being tied into the government. Stargate and all these different things that Trump is doing. Why is the president endorsing private companies to create something like this? Because the government is the one behind all these things. They need this in order to control the people. All right, in order for their scheme to actually work, they have to invest in the technology in order to do these things. So it's being built around you so that way you're locked in. You're locked in, and you have to find your way out, right? You got to find your way out, which is going to be built, is going to be filled with suffering and pain for those who are going to be outside of the grid, outside of the system, outside of those who have been, who have received the right? For a short time. Man, it's crazy. It's a crazy sacrifice, right? So continuing, it says, any government agency will know what any person has done and is doing at any time. Okay. Other sources say that the tiny microtransmitters can be injected painlessly with a tiny gun in humans without even them knowing it through a nationwide Vanessa program. Interesting. It says all government would have to do this. There's a quote, right? All the government would have to do is make up something like the swine Vanessa. End quote. It says, imagine if they said there was a Vanessa for AIDS. People would rush in droves to get those shots. The doctors themselves may not even know what they're injecting. They will be told the micro C-hips are genetic implants that reprogram the body into fighting disease. You see, the health department, the health sector, the pharmaceutical companies. Larry Ellison came out and said it. He said, they're going to have mRNA that can has everyone's identity, right? And it can, fight cancer, diagnose it faster, and all these different things. I'm like, what? How are you going to be able to track all these things? You got to have a device in you that could communicate with the devices around it. That's how they could get the information, the data. That's how they'll know all these different things. So for him to say, oh, we can predict and all that, you're not predicting it. You're just scanning the person for so long that you're gathering information that helps you say, okay, there's a model, there's a person's body, is what it does. And we're seeing these things here. It shows that this person is at a risk of getting this. You want that whole information, that data, that graphos. And you can only obtain that by having the implant in the body, because it has transmitters. So it can It can push out information and receive information. Okay? That's how they're going to use that to control people, believe it or not. All right. It says, he adds, the program would require all federal, state, and local government workers to undergo the injections. What happened back in 2020, 2021? That's exactly what we saw. And that was the test run. We kept saying it. That's a test run before the C-HIP actually comes out. And now people are a whole lot more degenerate than they were back in 2020. That was the first shock. And the past 5 years has just turned most people into degenerates, man. Completely. It's just like, it's crazy. So at this point, they're fat and ready for the kill. Because a lot of people don't even know what the hell's going on. They have no idea. They're just trying to make ends meet. So when the time comes where you all this work you're doing to make ends meet, life is so hard, you're going to be forced to subject yourself to suffering or a little bit of relief in your mind, but it's going to be filled with complete and utter, control over you. You can't say this, you can't do this, you can't eat this, you can't go here, unless you do this. It's like, damn, people they're gonna regret it. And then on top of that, they're saying that lithium, right? As a matter of fact, let's do something here. Let me check something. Because these C-HIPs are powered by lithium, okay? And lithium is actually what is in the hold on, let me see. Right here. So I'm going to type this in, right? Can lithium cause grievous sores, right? And the reason why I typed that in is because of this precept right here. Okay, just again, you got to make sense out of this, right? What is the actual cause that brings the effect that we read in the prophecy, right? What's the effect? What causes that effect that we're reading, right? So this is the book of Revelation chapter 16 and start off at verse 1. It says, and I heard a great voice out of the temple saying to the 7 angels, go your ways and pour out the vials of the wrath of the Most High upon the earth. That's the judgment. Okay, that's the judgments. All right, the thermonuclear destruction. All right, and prior to that, the plagues, right, epidemics. All right, the wars. All right. So the wrath, that's all part of the wrath, man. And ultimately it ends with the nuclear missiles. Okay, verse 2, it says, and the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image. You hear that? Right? So we go into that word, or a few words here. We're going to go into the word noisome, right? It says here, the Greek word, let me see if I could, let's see if we could play it. Let's hear what he says.
Strong's G, 2556. Kakas.
Right, kakas, right? So it says of a bad nature. That's the noisome, right? Kakas in the Greek. Of a bad nature, it says not such as it ought to be. It says of a mode of thinking, feeling, acting. So that means something your feeling, your thinking, your acting has been altered, right? It says base, wrong, wicked, troublesome, injurious, pernicious, destructive, baneful. Right? Now I'm going to see if we can get a little bit more into that. What is the root word of that? Nah, that's not it. Let's see. Whereas, right, it says injurious, bad, evil, harm, ill, noisome, wicked. Okay, now we got that for noisome. It says and grievous. Let's go to that word grievous, right? Let's hear what it says.
Strong's G 4190. Paneras. Paneras.
All right, so paneras, right? What does it mean? It says, let me see. It says bad or of a bad nature or condition. It says full of labors, annoyances, hardships, pressed and harassed by labors. Right? Bringing toils, annoyances, perils, of a time full of peril to Christian faith and steadfastness, causing pain and trouble, right? Jacob's trouble. In an ethical sense, evil, wicked, bad. All right? And then the last one is what? Sore. Let's hear what it says.
Strong's G 1668. Helkas. Helkas.
Helkas, right? Hebrew and Hellcat. So Helkas, right? It says a wound, especially a wound producing a discharge pus. Ooh. Right? A sore or an ulcer. Okay? That's what the word sore, Helkas in the Greek, all right, means. Okay? So evil, bad, sore. Grievous sore. Okay? Now, let's read lithium and soreness. It says, lithium itself, when present in high concentrations, can cause significant health issues. And then, listen to what I said. Remember this. I said, lithium can cause grievous sore. Right? That's all I said. Now, let's read. It says, this their disclaimer, but it does not typically cause a grievous sore, and this is in quotes, in the context of an RFID C-hip. Why did they put that in there? Is the RFID C-hip the only thing that lithium works with? Because I know phones do that too. They got batteries that's made out of lithium and so on and so forth. So you could have said, in the context of a phone, battery, or whatever. But it's interesting that they will point that out because I'm talking about lithium. And then it says, let's read that again. Lithium itself, when present in high concentrations, can cause significant health issues, right? But it does not typically cause a grievous sore in the context of an RFID C-hip. That's crazy, right? They literally use the word grievous sore because I asked that question, grievous sore. Okay? And that sounds just like what John said. As we're going to read, right? Revelation 16:2, and then the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the M-A-R-K, Salakia, of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image. Okay, so let's go back to this. Okay, it says lithium toxicity, which occurs when there is an excessive amount of lithium in the body, can lead to serious symptoms such as intestinal and neurological issues, and in severe cases, it can be life-threatening. However, the concern about lithium leaking from an RFID C-hip, why do they keep bringing that up? See? Why do they keep bringing that up? Because that's exactly what it is. All right, that's the main reason why this is all being done in the first place. It has to fulfill that prophecy. It says, however, the concern about lithium leaking from an RFID C-hip and causing a grievous sore, why do they keep using that same phrase? Grievous sore, right? Is not well supported. Of course it's not. Yeah, right. Even though you just supported it. It says the primary components of an RFID C-hip are a micro C-hip and an antenna. And they do not include batteries or other components that would contain lithium. That's a huge bombastic lie, but let's keep reading. It says, if you are concerned about the safety of an RFID C-HIP, it is more relevant to consider the potential for physical injury from the C-HIP itself, such as if it were to break or cause a puncture wound. So if it were to break, there's something in there that's going to make the body react. Okay? The people who actually created the C-HIP said that. See? It says, it'll cause a wound rather than the risk of lithium leakage, right? So you're admitting that there's lithium still in the C-HIP, even though you just said it's just, it just has an antenna and does not include batteries and other components that contain lithium. But yet, the very next sentence you say, you still can, you're going to get, the chance of you getting hurt by this thing breaking in you, right? And causing a wound, which is going to be a literal mark, right? Is higher than the chances of you risking the lithium to leak, right? So that means there's lithium in it, if you catch my drift. Anyway, it says, if you experience any unusual symptoms or injuries related to RFID C-HIP, it is advisable to seek medical attention. Oh man, let's read this here. Let's see. Man, Esau, yo, that's crazy. That's crazy. They're fighting tooth and nail to say, oh, this thing don't got no lithium in it. Well, let's read this. Let me go back to this. There you go. Right. So going back to Revelation 16 and verse 2, it says, and the first went out and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the MARK, the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image. Right. So that's when again we go into that pus and all that. That's the reaction that you're gonna get, your skin. And Dr. Carl Sanders was saying that, right? That it's designed that once it gets into the skin, and it breaks or shatters or something. And he was thinking like, damn, is the Most High going all of a sudden make this thing break inside of people? And then he asked a doctor and said, hey, if lithium, goes into the stream and the blood and stuff like that, what could possibly happen? He said it's going to cause a grievous sore. He said he emphasized sore. He didn't say sores, he said sore. Because why? It's one thing that you can never cure. It has no cure. I said, wow. See? So that's literally what we just read. A noisome and grievous sore. They can't cure that. It's just going to be that pus, as we read, and sore. Okay? I think it says, Kelas, I think. Let's go back to that. Helkas, I think that's what it says. Right? The word sore, right? It says a wound producing a discharge pus, right? So a cut, that mark, right, is going to discharge. It's like an ulcer, a sore. Okay, so that's what they designed. That's how that's how it plays out. So hey, Brakta Yabashimi Haushai, man. We're there. We're there, man. We're there. All right. So going back to Revelation 13 and 16, it says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. So the whole world, all right, global, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. All right, that's C-HIP. Okay, and why the right hand and the forehead? Is because those are your hand and your forehead are the two places that has temperature that can actually is adequate for the C-HIP to function. Okay, so they said right hand simply because most people are right-handed, but it goes into your hand and you're good to go. It could go into your left hand, your right hand, it don't matter. And your forehead, which is your brain, it has this it's the energy is suitable for that type of device to be in your body. You know, that's why they do temperature checks on your forehead. You know. All right, so it says to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that what? And that no man might buy or sell. So the whole system is changed into digital. And in order for you to interact with this new digital system, you're going to have to be implanted with this device that they've already conspired about, going back to the 80s, as we read in that article. Okay? To tag every man, woman, and child. All right? As a form of identity. All right? It says, save he that had the mark and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here's wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 603 score and 6. All right, that's going to your Chai Psi stigma. Okay, the 666 Chai Psi stigma. All right, when you go into that word, all right, highlighted there will be stigma. Okay, it says what? A mark pricked in or branded upon the body. See? It says what? To ancient or oriental usage, slaves and soldiers bore the name or the stamp of their master or commander branded or pricked. That's the cutting, that's the etching, right? Into their bodies to indicate what master or general they belong to. And there were even some devotees who stamped themselves in this way with the token of their gods. There you go. Right? So stigma. It says, it says here, is it stizo? It says stigma from a primary stizo. There you go. Right? It says to stick, i.e. prick. That's the needle. All right. There's a mark incised or punched for recognition of ownership. There you go. So you pledge allegiance to them. Now they become your master, man. That's why the Lord going to destroy these people, man. All right. It says scar of service. Mark. There you go. What the hell? Yo, IUIC, you don't see this? You go into the words, you're going to arrive at exactly what we've been saying, man. The RFID CHIP is the MOTB, man. Point blank, period. All right. It says stigma, 666, go into that word stigma. It says what? From a primary stizo, right? It means to stick or to prick, man. How you going to do that? All right? That injection, that needle, man. That charax. It says a mark incised. That's that device that's going to be put in you, man. Yo, this is a wrap, man. It's game over. All right. So, yeah, I'm going to leave it off there. Lord willing, you edified and informed. In closing, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Rachakodash, the Wadi Yahweh Bashmiel Shai. Until next time, Shalom.